All right, everybody, welcome to week number 7. We're almost halfway done with the semester, and it feels so amazing, doesn't it? Oh my gosh, we're almost at week 8. So things are going ahead and be ramping up pretty quickly, just to let you know. Okay, so we got today we're going to talk about mod 6. Mod 6, we're talking about network storage and storage security policies. So this is going to be chapters 12 and 13. And this project, in this week, you only have 2 things you have to worry about. You have to do, again, your attendance verification, which I'll get to that in just a little bit. You have to go ahead and do a quiz. And you also have to go ahead and deal with the fact that you have a project due. Again, just going to let you know, I have already opened up the, what do you call it? The midterm is open up from the 6th through the 16th. So if you haven't got your midterm in, please go ahead and make sure you get that done ASAP. Okay. And we'll go ahead and go from there. So make sure you get that. Midterm again is worth 100 points. It's due on the 16th. Actually, let me go ahead and edit that here. That should not be due on. It should be due on the 16th. Okay. Again, it's been available since the 6th. So let's go and get started. All right, we're going to be talking about chapters 12 and 13. So some things you have to kind of know. Okay, we talked about how the file structure works and how a hard drive is set up in regards to a partition last week with physical volumes, and we're looking at logical volumes. Now we're going to be talking about something called sharing files and directories across the network. This is called distributed file system, okay? So if you have the ability to share files and directories across the network, this is called a DFS, or distributed file system. The way you take advantage of a DFS is you use a protocol called server message block, or SMB. This right here runs on port 445 typically. And this also is the attendance verification word of the week. Network file systems is a popular DFS for Linux. So that's NFS. And again, server message block is going to be the word of the week. Common Internet File System, or CIFS or KIFS, is an SMB-based protocol popular on the Windows system. So the Windows system uses KIFS. And the Linux-based software that allows SMB sharing is called Samba. Okay, so we have a Samba share if we go ahead and do distributed file systems. So Samba, the base package is Samba, the Samba software. So let me go ahead and actually, I'm going to come over here. Okay, I'm going to do sudo yum install Samba. Oh, actually sudo. Actually, let me go ahead. This is the wrong VM. I'm in my Kali box. I'm going to start off my CentOS box. All right, so the Samba server software. We have a server software, we have a client software, and we have the common software used by both the server and the client, okay? So you want to consider installing all 3 of these. Another useful package is Samba SWAT, which provides a web-based interface, Samba administration tool, okay? So let's go to student. And while I'm getting this together, all right, configurations are found in Samba smb.conf. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and actually look at how this configuration file works. All right, so I already installed Samba. I'm in the Etsy Samba folder. And then I'm going to, if you look right here, I did ls right here. And we want the smb.conf file. Let's look at that. So the file has sections using the following format: the name, this is the name of the section, and then the options and attributes. Each line is a separate configuration option. So we have home directories, we have printers, print drivers. So this is how the smb.conf file works. Two common characters are used. We have the pound sign or the hashtag for regular comments, and then we have the semicolon for converting to comment lines any actual configuration settings you do not want but should maintain. Let's see if there's any in here. Nope. Okay, just comments. Right, cool. So the global work group is the NetBIOS, okay, or this one says Samba. That's work group or domain name. The server string description is a server. So we have the server string, so we can put a server string in there called description of the server. If we had a server going, the security type of user authentication method, we could do user, and this has user. PassDB backend, how the Samba account data is stored. So this is actually using TDBSAM. And then load printers, if yes, share all cup printer by default. And then cups is actually the daemon that's used for printers. Okay. And then options regarding cups this is rarely ever modified. So the /home section, description of the share. This says home directories, okay. Browsable, if yes, the share is visible via a client utility displaying information about available shares on the Samba server. And then writable, if yes, home directories are shares with write access. So it is read-only, no. Browsable, no. However, there is access control list. Printers. Okay. In the global section, we call the load printer setting. It is set to yes. Samba looks to this section to set up all cup printers, okay? So this is where Samba looks to find cup printers. And really, you won't make any changes to this one. So you can create custom shares of directories or printers. For directory shares, the syntax is much like the /home, okay, like this one. If you want to do specific printers, you have to do it very similar to in the global section. Create a section like this, HP 101, here's the path to it. Is it browsable, printer name, So before starting the Samba server, after making config changes, use the test parm to verify your syntax, okay? So let's go ahead and, so notice the test parm loads config file. Loading services, weak crypto is allowed. Server reload, press enter to see a dump of your service definitions. All right, there you go. Then start the Samba server. To start, two services need to be started. So we need to do a SMBD start. So we can do a service. SMBD start. Sudo. Oh, we don't have SMBD, okay. Okay, we don't have MBD too, so let's go ahead and do a sudo yum install SMBD. Okay, so if you want to start it, we have to make sure we start the SMBD service and MBD. Let's do service SMBD status. Okay, so we haven't started it, so I can't find it. Okay, so we would have to start that, and unfortunately, we're not starting it right now. So actually, we do have logs though, so we can go to change directory /var/log/samba. Let's see. There we go, Samba. Here are the Samba logs. Anaconda, audit, crony, cups. So to create a Samba account, do SMB password. Tag a student. when run by root, so we can't do that. So we need to do root. Right, I give it the student password. To change the password for an existing account, omit the attack A option, so we can just do a sudo smb password student. What's the new smb password? I'm going to go ahead and type in student again. All right. So we can actually discover if there's any other actual SME server, but there isn't any. So unfortunately, we won't be able to discover it. But if there was some, we can actually go ahead and use the NMB lookup. So that's the net message block lookup. And then you go ahead and give the actual work group. So you can use SMB client command to look at that. So SMB client. So this is how we actually, so we can use SMB client command here. So we have, SMB client, the service, and then the password. We can do the tag U for username, and the tag L for get a list of shares available on that specific IP address. So the cool thing about SMB is that once you're in there with SMB, you can actually use very similar FTP commands to do what you need to do. Okay? You can mount the share, so you can create a directory, and then you can mount it using the tac-t command with CIFS, tac-o, and then here's the specific user, and then here's actually the location. So the network file system is a DFS protocol. It's about 40 years old. It has been ported over from several different OSs, including both Windows and Linux. Now, I will say it is not as popular as Samba, but there are a lot of orgs that still use it to share files. The NFS is actually, you can use NFS, NFS server, or NFS kernel service startup scripts. We can do, let's see, service NFS status. So we have to do sudo yum install NFS. Oh. Okay. So you would need to run the NFS utils. Okay, so let's do this. And we get NFS utils, so let's do sudo yum install NFS utils. All right, we already got that. All right, so NFS util service is started, okay? So I was playing around with it and everything just to make sure it works. So we had to install the service, util service, and now I had to go ahead and start the service. So this was service NFS util start. Started it, and then now I'm verifying what the status of that, okay? So for NFS to work, we require RPC, okay? So if you don't know, RPC port, remote procedure, okay? RPC That's what it's called, remote procedure protocol. Port number should be 135. Let's see. They use 1024 to 5000 for RPC. Our port 135 is used for RPC client server communications. Port 139 and 445 are used for authentication and file sharing. 137, 138 are used for NetBIOS on UDP. There's some of the things you need to be aware of. Syntax, primary configurations, and Etsy exports. We can go ahead and go to, we can go to Etsy and exports. All right, nothing in there. So that's where the primary configuration for NFS server is. So the syntax is directory hostname. So we can actually go ahead and look at that. Example is going to be user share doc Jupyter read write. So we can do read write, read only. We can do async, root squash, maps the root user and group account from the NFS client to anonymous accounts. Either nobody, that's that nobody account we talked about earlier, or the NFS nobody. And then no root squash, map the root user and group accounts from the NFS client to the local root. Okay. So here's how NFS ID mapping, same user, same group, works. So we're going to do Etsy password. So on the client, we're going to tail Etsy password and Etsy group, mount, and then we're going to tail the, the last one, -1. And then here we go, ls tag L access. We have student. And then we have here tail what Etsy password student, group student, and here's ls tag L share. It's student, and that's the same thing. So we do more Etsy exports, and we can see share has read-write privileges for that user student. And then we have here, right here. So NFS to ID mapping different users and group names. So if we can do this with Bob. So Bob should have access to example. And he has access to example via the student, okay? So you can create at least one share entry in the Etsy exports file, start the port map service, and then you start the NFS, and that's how you go ahead and get that taken care of. So the port map provides a map of the ports in use by various services and programs, much like the legend on the map identify each element. When RPC-based services start, it tells port map how it can be reached. So to view port information, we can do RPC info, TAC P. There you go. So right now it can be reached on 111. The program is 100,000, okay? So you can block the port map service, blocking access to the NFS server for a specific client by blocking access to the port map service. So to do that and everything, you use the TCP wrappers used in Etsy host.allow and Etsy host.deny. So we can block the port map service. Also, this rule matches the attempt to connect to the port map. So we do port map 192.168.1.100. The rules are applied as follows. If the rule matches in Etsy host allow, the connection is granted. However, if that rule matches in the deny file, then it's not allowed. If there's no rule match from either file, the connection is granted. So either it matches in the allow and it goes through, or it matches in deny and it doesn't go through, or if it doesn't match in either one of them, then it still goes through. The export FS map displays information about what is currently shared. So we can do export FS, sudo. And right now, there's nothing being shared. So it can also be used as temporary share resource. So you can just do it temporarily with the TAC O option. We can do NFS stat. So we got no client stats. We don't get any information, about that. We can do a show mount. So we have client create RPC program not registered. We don't have any display similar, any mount points right now. So configure an NFS client. Let's go ahead and do this. We're going to make a directory. So let's go to our folder. We're going to make a directory called access. All right, so we made a directory called access. So we're going to do a mount. I'm going to do a sudo just in case. Let's see, actually, I have config. To see if this works. So if I want to go ahead and see, we can do a mount and see if we can let's see if we can find it in here. We're looking for the C group. Nope. All right, it did not work. Cool. And that's probably because also we don't have an actual share running. We don't have a share server running, so. Again, this is a little bit more advanced stuff. You're not going to be able to do this anyway in your machine. So to make the mount point persistent, remember we talked about the fstab command or the fstab command. And then we talked about iSCSI, a network storage solution based on the SCSI protocol. The SCSI protocol is to communicate between kernel and a SCSI device. So we have key terms involved. We have the target, the initiator, the worldwide identifier, and the logical unit number, or the LUN. Okay. So we can install the SCSI target util package and its dependencies. So we can actually do that. We can do sudo yum install SCSI target utils. Okay. Oh, okay. Let me see. Maybe I already have it in here. No, okay. I apparently do not have it. Let's see here. Okay, so let's actually, I already installed it. Let's go into see if we actually have the TGT. I don't. Okay. So it didn't install properly, so I'll have to figure that out and everything. But let's go ahead and just actually continue on. So if you want to go ahead and edit the actual SCSI target utils, you go ahead and go to targets.com file. That's found in Etsy TGT. Okay. So then you have to start the daemon, which is the D daemon. And so if you have a D at the end of the program, that means it's a daemon. We'll talk about that a little bit more about what that means and how it's important. And you can execute the target tac admin tac show command to verify the target has been enabled. So we also have initiator configurations. We can do iSCSI initiator utils. We can use the iSCSI admin command to see the name of the targets provided by an iSCSI server. And then lastly, the first time you execute this command, it automatically starts the iSCSI D daemon. So the first time you do it, it automatically will pop it up. You don't have to worry about starting it automatically or starting it manually. Then you look into the output of the iSCSI ADM for a machine that can act as an initiator and the IQN, okay? This list of initiators should include the machine you are executing commands on, and then you're going to connect to the target with the iSCSI. So you'll have to connect to it, and we have to do init.d iSCSI restart. So we have to restart the actual service. So there are some quick little tips about how to use iSCSI. And again, this is a little bit more advanced, so we're not going to go into full detail about it unless you have to do it. You make sure you enable the iSCSI script to start automatically at boot. Make sure you enable the file system mount in the etc fstab file to include the _netdev mount, as this ensures networking is up before you try to mount the secure. So you want to make sure you don't want to try to mount it if the internet's down, because then it's just going to get hung up and it's going to cause problems. And you do not need two systems to test iSCSI. The system that acts as the target can also be the initiator, at least for testing purposes. Okay. So that's it about Samba. And let's go into the backup strategy. This is going to be focused on the latter part. So when we're doing backup strategies, you want to make sure you develop a plan. So sensitive data needs to be secure from prying eyes. Consider where all data should be stored. Where should it be kept? And the critical data must be backed up on what critical data should be backed up on a regular basis. And a data recovery system should be implemented to allow for quick recovery of the lost data. Okay. So when you develop your plan, you want to make sure you protect files using a combination of permissions, file attributes, and SE Linux, which we talked about a little bit in the last couple of modules. You want to use scripts to determine whether file permissions and attributes are correctly set. Okay. So instead of you having to do it, you just run the script, and the script does the accounting for you and the verification for you. You want to enable file system encryption for mobile devices, okay? And use features such as firewalls to limit access to network storages. So when we're backing up data, we want to create a backup strategy. What needs to be backed up? How often? Is there going to be a full, incremental, or differential backup? Where will the backup be stored, and what backup tool will be used? Okay. So multiple file systems make it easier to execute backup strategies. Okay. So if you have different types of file systems, it makes it easier to execute them. Certain directories change more than others. It's best not to try to back up data that is actively being modified. So if you know that something's constantly being written to, you don't want to back it up. You can use frozen snapshots to capture a point in time and then back up from there. It's up to you. So consider making these directory mount points separate file systems and including them in your backup strategy. Home, user, bin, sbin, opt, var, boot, lib, lib64, and etc. What should not be backed up? Directories that are either not stored on the hard drive or contain temporary information that does not need backing up. Mount, media, dev, net, proc, serve, sys, and bar temp. Okay. There is no exact rule to determine how often you should do this. It depends on how often the data changes on each directory and file system, and you need to have an established baseline. If you know that things get updated every week or on a daily basis, and this is very important that we keep a active running toll of this, and you should go ahead and be doing it daily, if not every other day, or however you want it. Schedules will likely be different for different directories, okay? So you may be running backups. You're not going to back up everything on the same time. You may be running backups every once a week for this folder, maybe every 2 days for this folder, maybe daily for this folder. It just depends. So there's actually a full backup, there's a differential backup, and there's also incremental. A level 0 backup, which is the full backup, backs up everything, chingos of data, and sets each file backup archive flag to off, okay? Level 1 backups, differential, backs up everything that has changed since the last full backup, but does not reset the backup flag for backed up files. So it only backs up things that have changed since the last full backup. Level 2, which is incremental, backs everything that's changed since the last backup of any kind, okay? So there's two different reasons why you would want to do that. Okay, do you want to back up everything since the last full backup and just measure the changes? Or does it matter which one you're doing? Your backup from anything, because you can actually combine all of them into one. So backup strategies. Each day after the first day, you back up only what has changed since the previous day. To restore, you must have all backup sets and restore them all in order. Less work to make the backups, but more work to restore. Okay. So here's the strategy for a differential. You do a full on day 1, and then you do a level 2 differential on day 2 through 7. Okay. There's no backup strategy. Each day after the first day, you back up everything that has changed since the full backup. So you do a full backup on day 1, and then you do incremental backups after that for each day after that. And you can do another full backup on day 8. To restore, you must have the full backup set and the most recent level 1 backup, okay? So you only need, so in this one, you need all of them. In this one, you need 2, day 1 and day 7. Well, the backups we store, tapes have an advantage of being low cost and have a medium shelf life. However, they're slow, they require special hardware, and require a lot of maintenance. Discs are fast and easily available, but they're not portable. They're just not. Remote, normally easily available, easy to have data secured off-site, but also there's a disadvantage of it. What if your network is down? What if their network is down? It also can be expensive and it can be slow because it actually works off of the threshold of the internet that you're paying for. Optical media. It's decent speed. It does have a low cost, and hardware is easy to obtain and it is affordable. However, these have very low storage capacities and most often write only once, can't be reused. So unlike tapes and disk and remote, you can overwrite. So we have some backup features. We have DD, you have TAR, you have rsync, Amanda, Bacula. Yes, I said Bacula. Dump, restore, CPIO, gunzip, gzip, and bzip2 and bunzip. Okay. The DD command backs up entire devices, hard disk, partitions, logical volumes. So we can look at this right here. We can, go back. No. There you go. This is a help command for DD. Copy a file, converting and formatting according to the operands. So you can change it by byte size, this and that. Can back up anything on the disk, not just files and directories, okay? It can back up the MBR, the master boot record from the disk, which we talked about last week. You can place the output in an image file. This is how you create boot images. You can back up contents on the optical disk into an ISO image. This is how they created those installations we did. You can mount both image and ISO files so they are treated as regular file systems. So you can treat them as if they actually are a file system. When working with tape drive, TAR is short for tape archive. So we TAR something, we're actually creating a tape archive. If you see a TAR, you'll hear it called a tarball. Tape archive. So the tape devices names in Linux follow the dev st and then follow that, or nst and then asterisk. The first tape device is st0, second is st1, and so on and so forth, just like we do in a numbering scheme. The nst also refers to the first tape device, but it sends a no rewind signal. Okay, so tape doesn't rewind itself after the backup. So this is useful when you need to write multiple volumes to the tape. To working with tapes, the MT command enables you to directly manipulate the tape device. You can use MT. I don't know if we have MT here. Let's see. Nope, we do not have MT. All right, let's install it. And MT. All right, control magnetic tape drive operations. There you go. Okay. TAR command, short for tape archive. A backup created with TAR is called a tarball, like I said before. To create a backup with TAR, use the TAC C option to create, and TAC F for file name. To see the contents of a tarball, use the TAC T for table of contents with the TAC F option. To see detailed information about the contents of the tarball, use the TAC V option. So to extract the contents, use the X for extract. To extract only certain files, list the file names at the end of the command. So I want specific ones. We also have the command rsync. It's a different set of backup features than TAR DD designed to back up files to remote systems. We use rsync to do, like, if we have a remote backup to an off-site backup. And you can communicate via SSH. rsync, though, only backs up files that have changed since the last backup. Again, here's how the RC command. TAC A is archive, TAC B is verbose, TAC E is SH, means execute via SSH. This is what I want to, is what to copy, and this is where to copy it. Okay. Here's some third-party tools. Amanda, she's open source. Gives you a scheduler, writes to either hard disk or tape. There's Bacula, who is also open source. Create automated backups. Configuration can be done on the server side via web interface. One disadvantage is the backup format is not compatible with other backup formats. And that's how we do backups. Okay, let's talk about the assignment real quick. So again, you have a quiz you have to worry about. But let's talk about the account storage policy. Okay. Create a memo detailing a user account storage policy you would have proposed in a small business setting. Upload your created memo below. So you're going to go ahead and create a memo. And I'm looking for like the storage policy. So, storage policies. Let's look at this real quick. So this is how we secure storage. Okay. So create a backup, a memo about which security, which a storage policy you would implement. Okay. So how would you go ahead and deploy a storage a securing storage devices, a security plan? And we talked about this, how you develop a plan. Make something up. Be creative. This is time for you to be creative and everything, okay? This is time for you to be creative. Make sense. And so here's a rubric. Format and grammar. Okay, make sure it's formatted correctly. It's supposed to be in a memo format. If you don't know how to write a memo, you have to figure it out. What is your quality explanation? Did you provide multiple perspectives using organized points and logic, in-depth explanations, and alternatives and assumptions used? Okay. And then lastly, did you turn it on time? Okay. And that's going to be 15 points. All right. If there are no more questions, this is Mod 6. Everyone, y'all have a really great rest of your time. If you have any questions, send me an email. I'll go ahead and answer them as quick as I can. And remember, get started and ready to study for your midterm. That's going to be open. That should be closing on the 16th. And then from there, I think we go into next week, which is going to be scripting. All right? Cool. Y'all have a great rest of your week and enjoy the rest of your, and let me know if you have any questions.